Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of VC Buckets. I'm Matthew Bruni. Joining me once again is Colin Mitchell. Colin, today we have two 7-footers in
Incredible.
our video today. Kyle Filipowski from Duke, Kel'el Ware from Indiana. Two sophomores. I also think that's why it's interesting to compare these two. Very similar ages, 20 years old. Now, the skill set is different, right? Like these are very different, like archetypes of players in terms of Filipowski and Ware. But they're mocked generally, I think, in similar ranges. Some people are really high on Ware. Some people, are a little lower on him. Like I think the range for Ware is has more variance than Filipowski. Most people have Filipowski like late lottery or late teens maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess who are you higher on and why?
I don't know if I could answer the question of who I'm higher on because I think that both of them will be, or I guess taking them both around the same spot would be fine with me. And I just say that with like for Kel'el, for example, I think he has a way higher ceiling than Filipowski, but I think Filipowski is a lot more safer of a pick. And that doesn't mean that I think his floor is like low and he's just going to always be in the league at like a low level. I think he could be like a starter pretty easily. And I guess it's really just kind of what you want to bet on because Kel'el obviously is more athletic, looks to have a lot more untapped potential, whereas Filipowski is more of he's a skilled guy who you kind of already know what he is, and less of a project.
These are also, two of the top 6 players in the 2022 high school recruiting class, like both heavily recruited 5-star guys, like immense talent coming out. So we knew that from jump. Ware had 1 year at Oregon and then transferred to Indiana. Filipowski, both years at Duke, took a substantial jump up from year 1 to year 2. I think when we start this, I'm higher on Ware, but it's not like to the point where it's like drastic. It's not like I'm saying he's 15 picks higher than or 15 spots higher than Filipowski. I'm probably gonna end up with him 5-6 spots ahead of Filipowski.
Oh, really? I have him two. I have Kel'el Ware 2 spots higher.
2 spots ahead.
Yeah.
Right now, without it being solidified, I have him 3 or 4.
Okay.
So somewhere in that range. I think Filipowski to me, and you mentioned it, the floor being a little bit higher. I do think the ceiling is a big concern. Like I just don't see the ceiling coming around on either end of him being elite at any one thing, unless if he becomes like an elite shooter per se. I don't see him being an elite scorer at the NBA at an NBA level consistently. And we'll get to comps later, but my comps are mostly like role player guys,
Yeah.
and that's where I think I would hesitate to take him in the lottery. Because if you have a lottery pick in most situations, I know the Thunder have a lottery pick. I know there's maybe some teams that have some aspirations in the lottery, but like for the most part, when I'm in the lottery, I want at least some sort of a ceiling that this guy could be an all-star at some point. I don't see that with Filipowski. But to your point, he can score, he can shoot the ball 50.5% from the field, 35% from 3, 1.5 blocks per game. And honestly, I don't think he's a bad defender. Like I know like, big white guy, you think like, hey, he can't move, he's slow, and he doesn't have super long arms. I think he's like a 6'10" wingspan guy, like maybe
it's a
negative
minus wingspan. Yep.
Yeah. But I think he actually moves fairly well, and I think he has pretty good awareness of like defensive principles. So I'm not out on Filipowski as a defender at all. I just think his all-around game doesn't have a high ceiling at all. Rim protection and rim running, like those two, definitely not. But he's a face up big. So
yeah, I think that's kind of where he has to be. I know he's listed at center, but I have him more so playing as kind of like a power forward. Like
that's interesting.
That's where he I think could play, and that's mostly because I really like what I saw with him with the ball in his hands a lot. And it's not obviously they're not going to run the offense through him, but like I was thinking a lot like Kelly Olynyk, like the way he kind of plays, where he's going to throw some good passes, he's going to be able to spot up, and I think he's probably a better shooter than Kelly Olynyk at this point in his career. And if you can get a guy that's like Kelly Olynyk who's been in the league 12 years, like I don't see like and where these guys are getting drafted, right? Like probably 15, 13, 12, like around there, depending on how high you have them. I think in this draft, especially because there's not a lot of high upside, this is where it starts to blur the lines between, are you looking for a role player that can help you win games, or are you looking for a project guy who in a normal draft would be a project guy that goes in like the 20s or even the 30s, depending on who it is. So I like Filipowski a lot in that aspect.
Yeah, I think you bring up, now that you mention it, my comps are both fours.
Yeah,
So like
mine are both fours as well.
now that you mention it, it kind of makes sense. And like maybe like a ideally Carl Anthony Towns like situation where he's just like a shooter and can like pick his
Yeah,
spots. To where he's next to a 5 that can do those things that he doesn't do.
I think the situation that he's drafted into is really going to determine how his career ends up, because he can't go on a team that doesn't have an athletic big. Like he's going to need a guy, like he's not going to get drafted here, but he needs to be drafted a guy that like Giannis, or someplace with an athletic guy who can swap on defense, to where Giannis can guard the 5 and he can guard the 4,
Mm-hmm.
or the 5, or sorry, I got that backwards. Where Giannis can guard the 5 or the 4, and he can guard the 5 on defense, because I feel like he's gonna have to drop a lot despite him not being a terrible defender.
Yeah.
Just to swap with that 4 and 5 there. I think he needs an athletic guy to play with.
I think he's a pretty solid rebounder.
I loved his rebounding. Yeah,
Like I like his
8 rebounds a
rebounding.
game.
Yeah, 8 rebounds per game, and I think the motor was there. Played 30 minutes, 3 assists per game. Did the passing, did that appeal to you? I know you're a big
Oh yeah, I
passing
mean
guy.
that's what I think made it to where I think he can excel at the 4. It's not going to be a 4 that's going to sit in the corner and hit a 3. He's a guy that you can do DHOs and even pick and pop. I think is interesting. And then I really liked what he was able to do off the catch after. Like if he's coming out to pop, if he doesn't have the shot, I think he's able to put the ball on the floor pretty well.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's the obvious question marks for me. It's like finishing at the rim is a problem if he's doesn't have an obvious dunk attempt. He got exposed by some good athletes, I think, in situations. So I think that's all we need to know on Filipowski. Now comparing it to Ware, it's a completely different, like I said, archetype. Ware is 7 feet tall without shoes on. I believe what was his 7'5" wingspan.
Yeah.
9'5" standing reach, which was like 2 inches less than Klingon and Edie almost. Now when we say more of a project, it's interesting because he was actually really efficient and he can kind of shoot. So okay, tell me what are you not buying the shot, or are you not?
I'm not buying the efficiency.
Okay.
I think a lot of the stuff, like when I'm watching him, it was just a lot of dunks, or it was a lot of like cleanup baskets. It wasn't anything he was doing particular. And not to say that's not valuable in a player, but for a guy that you're drafting at 15 or something like that, not a lot to me was caused from him doing anything incredible.
Well,
right. And the shot, you bring up the shot, he only attempted 1 a game.
Yeah.
So he hit 43s, I think it was this year. And I like the shot.
Yeah.
I'm buying it, but I don't think a lot of the points were anything that I found him to be very passive when I watched him.
There were times. Yeah. He was 17 to 40 from 3.
Mm-hmm.
So to your point, he shot 1 a game. And even though they went in, I don't love the mechanics and the rhythm and stuff like that. I think this is a guy that has a lot of natural ability.
Yeah. Completely.
31% of his possessions were post ups, and they were running their. Now Mike Woodson runs a lot of his offense through the post, just naturally. So he got a lot of post ups, and a lot of the post ups weren't pretty to watch, but he finds ways to make these unconventional hook shots or running floaters or something like that. Or he banked in a shot from the free throw line one time, and he doesn't. I don't think he meant to do it, but it's just
yeah,
his shots kind of just go in. He has a good feel for the game in terms of making basket, and he's just bigger than everybody. And so 52% on post ups, that's pretty good. Obviously, like I said, the rim running is incredibly fun to think about, because not only does he have a 9'5" standing reach, he has a 36-inch vertical, which is insane.
Yeah.
Edie, I think, was 31 and Klingon was 29 or 27.
Something like that, yeah.
This dude is jumping 3 feet off the ground and he already almost touches the rim standing up. That's what we're talking about here. So from that perspective, I just think he has a lot of skill. The rebounding, averaged 10 rebounds a game, number 1 in the Big Ten in rebounding percentage in conference play. So I'm just I understand there are concerns, and we'll talk about them right now. But like, I can see it. I can see it with
Oh
my
yeah,
eyes, and I think he's extremely skilled. This is the guy who's like was ranked as like a 4-star or 3-star at this height, and just suddenly, in 2 years found his game. He's like, no, he was doing a lot of this at the high school level too. So we know it's there. It's just putting it together for stretches on the court.
yeah. I mean, he's above Filipowski on my board for a reason. I think his potential is a lot higher. And with that being said, I mean, well, I guess we go back into the pros in a second of why I think he can be that. But we were talking about negatives, and I think the biggest one for me was in those shots that you're talking about him making, you know, based off a feel or that he's not intending to go in. A lot of it looked like it was because he wasn't able to get to the rim sometimes because he wasn't physical enough. Like he obviously has an athletic body, like he's athletic. That's one of my strengths, but he's not built. He's not super strong yet. So sometimes when he put his shoulder on and go, he kind of just bounce off, and then you throw something up, and it would go in. But it at the next level, it's not going to fly. And again, with him too, I don't have him at a 5. I have him at a 4 actually, in terms of what I like him at. I think my comp, just to get into that real quick, I think LaMarcus Aldridge would be like a sick thing for him to kind of develop into. Except he's bouncy.
That's an interesting. Hold on, I didn't think about that. Like young LaMarcus Aldridge, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. My comps are Jared Allen and Kristaps Porzingis.
I have Jared Allen on there as well. As
Jared Allen and Kristaps Porzingis are my comps. Now Porzingis is different, obviously now, especially because he can really shoot it. But like I think as a prospect, they had similar. Like they were skilled and then tall and then kind of weirdly coordinated in situations. But the question for Ware, some people, they bring up, a lot of people have brought up motor and like questions with basketball in general. And like at Oregon, they said he checked out and just was gone. And so it's like, all right. But then I think back to some of the players that we've said as like our basketball guys, specifically Jaden McDaniels.
I keep that always is in the back of my head at all times.
Him, watching his Washington tape, which was disgusting. And then how he's starting on a conference finals team. So it's like, I don't want to dock him too much from that. Maybe that's wrong, but like I'm scared to dock him too much because if he flips a switch, like heck, that first paycheck could come in and then he's ready to go. I don't know what motivates him, but if he is motivated, this is a guy who has the skills to do it. As far as question marks go, I didn't think he was a great rim protector. He blocked 2 shots per game, but like honestly, I think he had opportunities. If he was a little quicker to react, I think he could have blocked a lot more.
Yeah, it was weird. I thought his timing was really well on the ones that he did like block because they were. It's incredible watching him jump as high as he does and then just swatting the ball away. But he definitely has, and I think this is why the floor is lower, is because there is clearly a lot of things defensively, just feel wise, that he needs to clean up. And it's not necessarily timing when he goes up for a block. It's just deciding to go up for the block anyways and things like that. So I think that's one of the question marks. Another one for me too is playmaking. Can't really put the ball on the floor. Gets a little sloppy on that, which it'd be cool if he could improve that. Cause I really liked a couple of the flashes where he's running in transition. And it's like, if he could put the ball in his hand at all, it'd be incredible. But I did like the upside with playmaking because I felt like he was never afraid to try stuff and he was very confident in doing that. So like if he's able to run DHOs or really, because there was a lot of times where he'd get the ball, and he holds it up really high, which I liked. And then he just finds somebody instantly. Now, obviously there was also turnovers. How many did he have a game? I guess only 1.6, but he only had 1.5 assists. So
I think to wrap up my question marks for him, I don't think he was a great screener really at all, which kind of limited his roll ability at times. And then offensive rebounding, it was frustrating to watch him just get boxed out by smaller guys easily. I feel like that's kind of the motor question where it's like, you should be getting more than, I think it was like 2 offensive rebounds per game, maybe 2.5, something like that. I was like, I just felt like he should have been more opportunistic on those. So those are a couple of mine. And then obviously, like, he's not going to get these post ups in the NBA. So you're going to.
I mean, I didn't like his post offense anyways, so I'm fine with that.
I mean, he scored it. It wasn't like beautiful, but he kind of scored them.
What do you have his ceiling at? Because we talked about the differences in the ceiling and why you have Kel'el. Well, I guess we both have him higher.
I think he has a very like. I'm trying to think if I could see him in an All-Star game.
See, I wrote that down first. I was like all-star, but
But
then
we
I
kind of
was
write
also,
down All-Star just as like, oh yeah, he could be an All-Star. It's like
but it's yeah, I guess with any athletic guy where they flash
like
skill.
if we say if the defense, because I don't think he's great defense. Like that's the one thing, and this is why he's not higher on my board. I don't know where do I have him right now. Yeah, I have him like 17, 18 in that range. And so like he's not higher on my board because like I haven't seen yet the defensive like upside that I wanted to see, like the reactions and the timing and like Derek
Yeah,
Lively type stuff. Like
Uh,
I didn't see that
I think
yet.
I'm trying to buy the Jaden McDaniel situation where he has
Yeah,
the tools to do it and
yeah,
he's shown flashes of it. Because I agree. I mean, decision making, that's a big thing. It's not like he's incapable of doing it. It's this
yeah,
deciding when to do it and the motor and effort. But I think the thing that intrigues me most defensively for him is his mobility. Like he's able to move
yeah.
and
He's
he's
an
not gonna have to
athlete.
be thrown in a drop. And
Yeah.
I think that's just the tools that he has throws him up there for me. So I have him a lot higher than you actually. I have him at 11.
Ooh, okay.
I have him at 11.
Colin's buying the upside here.
But I also have Filipowski at 13. So
Okay, so you're higher on both of them than I am.
yeah, I think I just in this draft am valuing more of what I think. I think I'm valuing more role
Are
players
they
and their
higher than
upside.
Klingon?
Yes, actually, I believe I have Klingon at yes. So Klingon is 15. Filipowski's 13.
Okay,
Khalil is 11.
okay. We'll see. We'll
I
see.
think yeah. I mean, again, going back to Klingon real quick, I think it's just that he does a lot of good things well, but I don't know if I can see him lasting.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well, there you have it. I don't think I have anything else. You got your comps. I got my comps. We're both taking Kel'el Ware here, who we would
not
draft
by a
first.
lot, by the way, for me
Not
at
by a
least.
lot. Not by
I
a
think
lot.
they're both gonna be good
Two
MVP.
or three
Well,
spots on our boards,
yeah.
so fairly close. I have him one rating above Filipowski to me. So
I need to go over my ratings. I have like 7 players the same.
I
So
have like 5, so it's not that bad. But anyways, that's all we got for y'all today. Thank y'all for joining us. Let us know in the comments who you think is going to be the better prospect, the better player in the NBA, Kel'el Ware or Kyle Filipowski. Thank y'all for joining us. We will talk to y'all later.